Hello and welcome back to the finals of the second and last uh, invitational qualifier for the Disney's Lorcana Invitational. We're going to be running next weekend at Apex Gaming. That's sponsored by TCG Player. I'm Tandy of the Lost Boys, joined by my good friend Bomat Courier. Say hi, Bomat.
Hi, Bomat.
And we have two players left in the room. We have the two big bads of the format, Stitch Blitz versus Ruby Amethyst Control. And, this was actually the very first Pixelborn match you and I ever played. I don't know if you remember that.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. You were super hype on Stitch Rockstar. I wanted to see if I could keep you in check with Ruby Amethyst. And here we are. These lists have been refined and tuned, and we are ready to get into the swing of things in the finals with two of the best players.
Building decks is like one of my favorite things to do in games. I love the act of cube drafting in Magic. I love the act of building decks, figuring out sideboard plans, physically playing the games. I'm actually more of an auto battler guy. I don't know if you've played a lot of auto battlers, but to me, the odds of you winning any given game of Lorcana, Magic, whatever head to head, it's rarely over 75% or whatever. And
Right.
an auto battler just takes all of that time spent actually playing the game and just focuses way more on the design and the builds of the comps. And then it's like, hey, you take two guys and you ask them, hey, which one wins? And most of the time they pick the one that has the higher percentage of winning.
Yeah, that's true. So are you describing our players right now as auto battlers?
No, I'm saying that I wish all games were auto battlers.
All right, well, we'd be out
Either
of the
that
job.
or I need to design the auto battler for Lorcana and get hired. That's what I need to do.
It sounds like a plan. What
Yeah.
do you think an auto battler can figure out how to loop brooms?
You don't loot brims. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. Favorite auto battler? All time, it's got to be Storybook Brawl. Unfortunately, they had some crypto woes. One of their investors was FTX, which got decimated by the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And it crashed and burned about 2 months ago. And me and my wife, we sit on the couch. We play Hearthstone Battlegrounds is our go-to right now. I never played TFT, but I heard it's good. All right,
I have some bad news for you. It's been way over 2 months since Storybook died. But let's get to the match. Yeah, time be passing.
Okay, we're in the finals. Players are mulliganing. We have Amber Steel Stitch Blitz versus Ruby Amethyst Control. On your left, Zach Bivens. On your right, Zach Powers. We got a Zach heading to the Invitational after this match. We'll see who takes it down. The seeding here, Zach Powers is currently undefeated on the day. 4-0-1 in the Swiss, and into the top 80 is won both his matches, so he will be on the play for game number 1 if that's his choice. Wildhair McGee says, what tournament is on Friday to get into Saturday's Invitational? So Wildhair McGee, we're having a last chance qualifier event on Friday. We're going to do it one of two ways. If we have 64 players, we're going to do two 32-person single elimination events. If we have fewer than 64 players, we're going to play one event where the top two players at the end of the rounds will make it into the Invitational itself. So players here are underway for the finals. The winner here will qualify for the Invitational next weekend. Here it is, Lilo making a wish. We're going to go back Powers' way, see if he has a 2-drop to challenge it in some way.
Yeah, Zach, I believe, is running a little bit more conventional of an Amber Steel deck as compared to Brad last round with the Bodyguard build. So going to be able to protect this Lilo maybe a little less consistent. Still has the best of the Bodyguards in Stitch Protective Cub to keep the lore flowing.
Rafiki could crash the house of cards. We'll see if Zach Powers has it, because Rafiki into Simba, and then the other character gets to challenge the Lilo with nothing dying. Thankfully for Bivens, that's not the case, and that's one of the reasons why Powers was able to dispatch Brad Marsh last round.
Right. Though we do see every single character is going to be a threat for this Lilo. See how many Simbas Zach Bivens, is going to be able to run out. Choosing not to quest with the Lilo this turn, most likely. just continuing to curve out and play this 3-drop on try to get a song.
All right. Doesn't have one. Gonna go ahead and quest for 2.
Wow.
I thought I saw a whole new world in there.
I thought I saw a whole new world, and I was not expecting this Lilo to quest, but Zach is doing his best to get lore on the scoreboard.
Especially, I mean, if I don't know if the exact list, but if there are Tinkerbell Tiny Tacticians, I just want every card in my hand that I can get. All right, so we got through the technical difficulties. We had Maleficent eat the Lilo. We had Ariel quest for 1, and then Mickey Mouse come in. So it looks like on your left, that Zach is just questing with everything.
Right.
Doesn't even give
Not
a care.
and I think it's there are, some motivations to that. Characters can get removed by Ruby Amethyst before they even get to quest sometimes. But if you do that with every character, you just allow powers to remove them for free and continue to hold answers in hand, even if you're getting the lore down.
All right, so we have everything updated here. We have Bivens on 5 lore, very behind on board. Inks a Rapunzel. Looks like we're gonna cast a whole new world, but when you're this far behind, that's pretty gross. Nope, just a beast. Hard headed.
Wow. So Bivens pretty restricted on options here, I would think, because this is one of the matchups where you really want to use Beast Hardheaded to take care of an item, either a mirror or a shield or a pocket watch, but decides the way his ink works out that he just has to run out instead.
Yeah, so Cinderella does have a quite the body 2-5, and I expected Bivens here to go 2-5 challenges the 3-4, and then use Rapunzel to refresh and draw 3. That was what I was expecting to happen. The Beast hard-headed with no target seems strange, but perhaps Bivens just trying to go full empty on the hand before casting a whole new world, and thought Beast hard-headed was slightly better on the table.
Right. That makes sense to me. And this is a pretty good quest from the Cinderella, honestly. Uh, as we see here, it's going to take down both of Powers' characters, and was able to get 2 lore in. So, Bivens is keeping up with Ruby Amethyst here and continuing to apply some amount of pressure. I'm really wondering whether this whole new world is going to end up paying off if he whether he even gets the opportunity to cast it.
Yeah, there was an outage with the camera, and then all of a sudden the aerial was in the discard pile. I'm not really sure if there was a quest that happened or what, but I feel like if you have whole new world in hand, like questing with that just feels foolish.
Right. I think he is trying to prioritize maybe getting max value off of the whole new world, which would mean likely playing another card from hand this turn and then singing with the beast. But if that other card is Rapunzel, he's not going to get much value out other than the body.
All right, I already played a Simba bodyguard as an ink. Gonna go ahead and play a whole new world, draw 7 off of the song with singing it with the beast hard headed. And Bivens going to get first crack at these 7 cards, but Powers getting a full refresh after trading a bunch of early resources 1-for-1. It looked good for Bivens, right? We saw a discard of 4 or 5 cards, and Bivens got to discard 1 to draw 7. So I think overall a great exchange for Bivens, but we'll see if he can leverage it into actually winning the game. Another naked Rapunzel, and we're seeing how weak Rapunzel is against these Ruby Amethyst decks. They just never leave a character with damage on it.
Right. The only time past the early game that Powers has left any characters started, it was this 4/5 queen, which uh which Bivens is unable to challenge in a way that leaves any characters surviving. But might have an opportunity here if there's a third Rapunzel in his hand.
All right, we're
Be
gonna
prepared.
sweep them up. Be prepared. Sweeper number 1. Now we still have 5 or 6 cards in hand as Bivens. Let's see what he wants to deploy. Here's an aerial. Gonna go looking.
Another whiff. And there is that third Rapunzel. Still no opportunities to get that down. Beer Guest is going to find a Stitch Carefree Surfer. See whether that ever draws cards against this control deck.
We'll see. With a fresh 7 last turn, I doubt it, but we're gonna go ahead and keep on keeping on. Here's a Stitch New Dog. We'll see if Powers can clear at least one of these to keep the Rockstar from doing anything next turn, or the Carefree Surfer from doing anything next turn. Pass back to Powers.
And this is, kind of one of the problems with A Whole New World is even when it's good, there's a certain amount of cards that Ruby Amethyst can have in hand that is just kind of too many to overcome, it feels like. Where they're just going to have the best thing every turn because their hand is so full. And a lot of the threatening plays that Bivens can make can be completely, wiped away by the cards in Ruby Amethyst.
Really big problems here, Chad. I apologize. I think we're just overheating in the room, but we're back to it. Powers on your right with Ruby Amethyst. Played a Maui to help clean up last turn with that Elsa, and now Carefree Surfer going to go questing for 2, and we're just going to keep on keeping on.
Right. So you were mentioning the kind of a conflict between A Whole New World and Carefree Surfer, and this is something that I also experienced in the combination of A Whole New World and Beast Mirror, though even more so with those two, where the struggle is kind of you want to have a card advantage engine like A Whole New World, but you don't always get to draw that, so you kind of want a backup, i.e. Beast Mirror or maybe Carefree Surfer, but then you just run into problems when you draw both of them at the same time.
Right.
So
They
it's
don't work well together.
kind of a hard circle to square.
Hey, I
But
played that game when I was a kid. I always got the squares and the circles, and no one could tell me different.
You're just on another level.
All right, well, we're going to do a big old quest for 3, and then we're going to Shield of Virtue to ready it, and then we're going to use that to play Be Prepared, and follow that up with a Queen, and we're going to use that to draw some cards over the next few turns, and we're going to get to ready it with the Shield of Virtue.
And there's not a lot Bivens is going to be able to do about this. That was a great turn from Powers there, being able to advance on every axis, get down this great card advantage engine in the Queen on an uncontested.
Yeah, every time you see someone cast Be Our Guest, they're losing. Just so you know.
Yeah, I believe it. Well,
There's
there's
a
a
Rockstar. And if we have an ink, we can play the Rockstar right now and then hope Powers doesn't have Dragonfire. I'm going to just play another Rapunzel with no targets. I'm going to go back Powers' way.
And I see Hippo in chat talking about running 1-drop Simba to maybe discard extra hold or power up your Rockstar or your Carefree Surfer. I have really never been happy with that 1-drop Simba that says you draw a card and then discard a card. 1/2 is just a small enough body that it feels like it never ends up mattering. Spending 1 mana to only barely affect the.
That's kind of same place I'm at, and that's why I'm not the biggest fan of Flynn Rider either. I know everyone who plays Emerald loves it. I am more than happy to discard my complete dead uncastable from my hand to let my creature eat your creature, and you can have your 2 lore.
Right. So Maleficent, a good answer to that Rapunzel, but the Rockstar is still in hand if Bivens is ever able to get that down. Whiffing with aerials. What else is new?
Yep. All right. Maleficent 9 comes down, eats. We have Ariel missing and back Powers' way. Let's see if Powers can close it out. We're in garbage time. Bivens' deck not functioning as well as he thought it would after drawing 7 cards, but that's how it be.
And once the Elsa comes down, that's when the clock really. Powers is
Yeah,
really going
it
to
quests
start
for
closing
3.
out
It
the
makes
game.
sure that you can't do much. Yeah, big agree.
Perfect turn for Powers. Used all the ink, got to draw a card, get rid of a character, and get some lore on the battlefield. Really hard to see how Bivens gets out of this one. You have a
All right.
couple grab your swords, but they don't add up to much on the Elsa or the Maleficent.
Playing with precons as my primary way of playing the game at the very beginning uh, led me to an inflated sense of strength of grab your sword. And then the more I played constructed, the more I realized that it was extremely good. It's just not extremely good in this matchup.
Absolutely. And you see a lot of that when you look at Lorcana cards is there's a bunch of spots where they are good, but then specifically against Ruby Amethyst, they start to fall flat, and that becomes more and more of a problem the more Ruby Amethyst you see at the top tables of tournaments. So you have to kind of warp your deck building in different.
All right. Well, Bivens is going to be losing game number 1. I believe we have enough on board to win with the Brave Little Tailor, and Bivens packs it in. Game number 1 goes to Zach Powers. We're in the finals of the Invitational qualifier for next week's Invitational. That's sponsored by TCG Player and hosted by Apex Gaming at their home store in Caldwell, Ohio. This is the last Invitational qualifier proper, but we will be holding a last chance qualifier next Friday at the Apex Gaming home store in Caldwell, Ohio, around 6:30 p.m. So if you are interested in qualifying for this exclusive 16-person 5K, make sure to head on out to Caldwell, Ohio next Friday and try to punch your ticket. We're giving away 2 more slots in the last chance qualifier. Here we'll be crowning our 14th invitee, and then we'll be adding 2 more to the list after the last chance qualifier next Friday. You can check out apexgaming.gg for more information about the Apex Gaming home store in Caldwell, Ohio.
Yeah, let's see if Bivens is able to get out to a fast enough start to try to get under this Ruby Amethyst deck, because we've seen this deck, we've seen other decks try to compete on the value card advantage axis, and it just really hasn't worked out for anyone against Zach Powers or any other Ruby Amethyst decks.
All right, as these players are shuffling up here for game number 2, I just want to give a shout out to some of our sponsors as well. Thank you so much to Apex Gaming for being the store that hosts all these wonderful events. Thanks to our setup to handle. Perhaps we'll end up with a 2 PC setup next week or somewhere down the line, but we apologize for any of the inconveniences. We want to bring you all the action here in the finals of our invitational qualifier. This is a $2,000 open event, and we are in the finals in game number 2. Zach Powers on your right with Ruby Amethyst Control versus Zach Bivens on your left with Amber Steel. And got his work cut out for him, but he's going to be on the play here for game number 2.
Right, we have resolved mulligans. Looks like Bivens put back 5 cards and Powers only put back 2. So Bivens really digging for what he thinks is going to be his ideal start in this matchup, and leads off inking a Stitch to play a Stitch.
All right. We're underway here, and we have the Sergeant Tibbs as a check for the Stitch Rockstar without Simba Bodyguard. I have to imagine the Stitch is going to chill for a little bit. It doesn't look like there's a 2-drop from Bivens. He aggressively mulliganed, but now his hand is just full of those expensive songs that can't be used in the inkwell. So very awkward, and one of the reasons why I only play 3 of both of them in my list, and one of the big downsides to playing so many of these songs, that are uninkable.
Absolutely. And you see Bivens here is looking at cards he wants to play. Like, you've got this Stitch New Dog in play. You want to be able to hold the Rockstar and shift it, but literally no other ink means it has to hit the inkwell, and Bivens plays are just going to be completely restricted by exactly what comes off the top this game.
All right, so we're gonna quest and have both of our things eaten. Zach Bivens decide, you know what? I'm out of here. We're gonna quest for as much as I can. I'm gonna go get some dinner.
And what we're really seeing here is, like I said, Bivens mulliganed 5 cards away, only held onto 2, and is really getting punished on ink here. Drew a bunch of uninkable cards, and that's almost gonna be all she wrote because these Lilos are not gonna put up much of a fight on the road.
All right, we're going to challenge the Lilo. Play friends on the other side. Keep the ink coming. So one thing Bivens is light on his inkables. Finds Prince Eric still only on 4 ink. Get a quest for 2. Powers here, firmly in control. Bivens basically out of gas. He can play a draw 7 next turn if he's able to find an inkable. If he doesn't find an inkable, I can't imagine that he has a shot.
Right. I just and even if he does play a whole new world, there goes the beast into the bin. See if this whole new world can get him there, but Powers is just gonna be drawing a bunch of answers, and
Yeah, and
already
there's
has
nothing
one in
on
play.
board. That's the problem, right? You don't have to answer anything.
And your deck Powers is up 1 answer against an opponent with no threats.
An ink Gaston, that's how confident we are. And we're going to go ahead and play the Queen.
Yeah, probably just the most strength and willpower Powers is able to get onto the table this turn. And we're looking at a bunch of tiny tacticians, I think. Not the most impressive hand from Bivens. Ink the Simba, Protective Cub. So one route Bivens is looking at is if at least one of these tiny tacticians pick, maybe we get to shift a giant Tinkerbell, and that's at least a way to start getting back onto the board here. Because Giant Tink does line up pretty well against the.
All right, well, we'll see if Bivens has on the following turn. Powers here with the World's Fair. Has the Queen drawn cards. Pocket Watch later for an Aladdin Rush. We'll see if he has any want to deploy a 7-drop this turn. Here it is. Doesn't even need to surprise it with the Pocket Watch. Just going to go ahead and play it. Bivens here, Rockstar in hand. Or sorry, Carefree Surfer in hand. Can use that to draw 2. That's pretty good. Now, any loots, any challenges, any questing?
Anything you do with a character here just gets punished so hard by this Aladdin. It's really hard to imagine this is actually getting Bivens anywhere.
Well, Bivens begs to differ. Going to go questing for 2. Powers here, licking his lips. Gonna crunch, gain 2 back, killing the Tinkerbell.
Worst case scenario would be Shield of Virtue, but it's not on the table yet, so probably doesn't have one of those. This Gaston does have to challenge.
All right, Bivens. Next turn, though, you gotta start doing some work. At least Stitch Carefree Surfer is threatening the Aladdin to trade up, but Dragonfire here are gonna knock that out. Windride of his sails back Bivens' way. Right after we get Magic Mirror down.
And we saw here kind of exactly what you were talking about. Carefree. The fact that turn 7 or 9 or whatever it was for Bivens was just playing out this single character, even if it drew 2 cards, was just trivial for Powers to deal with.
All right, here's the Rockstar. And if we play this character, Exertus can allow the Aladdin to get in there again, but I think it's still worth.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been just saying, it's just a little hard to see how Bivens gets a foothold back into this game. But there's an unexerted Protective Cub. The Aladdin is just too terrifying.
All right, Queen gonna draw. Whenever you play a character with Stitch Rockstar on the table and you don't exert it and draw a card, you've lost.
And let's I'll stop talking about business for a second. Start talking about Zach Powers. Certainly ahead in this game. One of the things that's been really impressive from Powers' gameplay to me is he is not greedy with his answers at all. He takes every opportunity to clean up whatever's going on the other side of the, you know, uses dragon fires on whatever semi-relevant threat, and it works out for him because he trusts his deck. He knows he's going to draw cards. He's going to draw cards that draw cards, and those cards are going to draw answers. And he just needs to spend as much ink as possible answering things, so his opponent doesn't find some hole to run away with the game.
All right, Powers firmly in the driver's seat. Went ahead and played another Aladdin after that Be Prepared, and Bivens, with very little in the way of getting back into this game, has a handful of cards. We'll see if he's able to leverage them in any meaningful way. But this Ruby Amethyst deck is showing why it's considered the best deck in the format. It just consistently has the right answer at the right time, thanks to all those extra resource regeneration effects, like Friends on the Other Side, Magic Mirror, and a lot of your cards replacing themselves.
And we know how you feel about Be Our Guest.
I sing Be Our Guest, and I find it off of Ariel, and I play it as Ink. But if I'm casting it, I either am so far ahead that I'm having a blast, or so dead that I should just concede. All right, well, here's a little bit of life. We got Captain Hook, Forceful Duelist, and a Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. Each come down and deal 1 damage to the opposing characters. And now we're going to go back to Zach Powers' way.
And just figure out the best way we're going to dismantle our opponent this turn. It's like starting off with some cards. And this giant fairy, it's threatening, but Powers also has no reason to exert a character until he has to. That onus is almost entirely on Bivens to end the game eventually. So this giant fairy might never really do anything of consequence, especially not if it gets dragon.
Fixing it quickly. I'm pretty sure it's just unplug the camera and plug it back in. Yeah. A classic tech fix.
And there we go. So Power's starting to feel comfortable here. Questing with the Aladdin does expose it to damage plus a challenge from this hook. But looks like all Bivens has is a Carefree Surfer with no way to draw cards.
Yeah.
Not going to be very effective.
Now here's the question. If you're Bivens, do you trade Hook with Broom? I think it's the right play, but it's embarrassing.
There's a lot of embarrassing plays that are going to have to be made in this game. Bivens is going to get out of it. We haven't even gotten to the Maleficent.
Yep. Maleficent Monstrous Dragon going to start coming in soon and chewing things up, but room with Terran while he's fixing things. So Terran knows what the problem is, and he's fixing it every time, but that doesn't mean that it's fixed completely. We have...
So we saw Elsa got rushed with a pocket watch, and then Aladdin finished off the Elsa exerted the Carefree Surfer, then challenged it with Rush, and then it got taken down by Aladdin. And you get another extra damage here from a Tink Giant Fairy, and then just passing back Powers as well.
I think the last card in Bivens' hand for the last few turns has been A Whole New World. But when you're already losing this badly, playing A Whole New World without singing it cannot be a good idea.
The problem is, so the reason A Whole New World is, considered playable in decks like this some of the time is because you do have some catch-up mechanisms, like grab your sword and Tink Giant Fairy to kind of deal with your opponent's board after they've, had their hand refilled by you. But those aren't effective against the kind of things that the Amethyst is doing. So you just end up giving them a bunch of ways to answer the card you drew instead of...
All right, here's Whole New World. Sing it. It's your turn. I've been singing all day.
A whole new world.
A whole new place and avenue.
A whole new, different way to lose.
All right, we're gonna draw 7. Let's see if Bivens has any way to get back in the game. He started with 1 card, now he's got 7.
Does have plenty of ink.
Version 20, weren't you the one being mean to me earlier about singing? Oh no, that was my yuck.
All
My
right.
goofy
So here's
voice.
this Beast Hard-Headed. This has been interesting out of Bivens' list. We've seen a bunch of these beasts, but they've all either been inked or played without an item on Power's side. This is the first one to actually take care of an item that knocks out this pocket watch. This is kind of one of the reasons you want to have this beast in your deck is the Ruby Amethyst deck playing a lot of items. But this is, like I said, this is the first time Bivens has really up. And I'm not totally sure how relevant it's going to end up being.
All right, well, here's Evasive Goofy. Anything else you got? Power's looking through the grave, probably got a broom in hand, gonna deploy that.
This is
Yeah.
going to be super difficult Goofy for Amber Steel to be able to take care of. It's going to require damage from 2 different sources because there are no evasive characters in the deck to ever be able to challenge it. All right, full grip. There is another whole new world. I would be surprised if that gets played this game.
All right, here's a Stitch Rockstar 4/6, and now with the rest of our ink, we can play out a bunch of cheap characters and draw cards. Come out, maybe Raijink. That sounds fun. Maybe that's the way out. All right, well, we got a bunch of spray creatures here. We got Lilo, Stitch New Dog, and Simba. Each of those is going to draw a card after getting exerted with Stitch New Dog, and we'll see if Powers can come back into this. Board is looking kind of gummy now.
Right, but I think the lore from these characters it'll win the game 3 turns from now, maybe 2 if more comes down next turn from Bivens. I don't even know if Powers has to play a B prepared game. The Goofy might be able to cross the finish line by itself.
Okie dokes. Draw another card. And we're not done there. We're gonna keep on keeping on.
The extra Lilo does help, but just a removal spell on this Stitch Rockstar could be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, step 1 is killing the Stitch, because if you leave the Stitch, it's just gonna happen again next turn, right? So you just gotta make sure that that's gone. But looks like we're not gonna go attacking. We're gonna quest for 3 up to 17. Maybe not even going to play anything, but Aladdin, yeah. Just gonna try to use Goofy plus Aladdin to win the game next turn. I think that's a pretty reasonable place to be.
What I could see is I don't know if Powers has a Be Prepared rolled up, but if Bivens wants to spend this whole next turn playing characters and drawing cards with Rockstar, and then Powers cleans those up with Be Prepared, I think that would be a good exchange. Instead, Powers looks like just loading up the board with characters and maybe hoping to get a win in next turn. But 1, maybe even 2 grab your swords from Bivens would go a long way towards cleaning this up, and that's definitely the kind of thing that Stitch Rockstar can do if you draw cards off all your characters.
All right, let's see what we can do, because we have some songs to sing, some trades to make. And Bivens here has to prevent 3 lore next turn. Looking through the grave, probably gonna see if there's anything he can draw off of a cheap character that might allow him to come back. He needs to have basically double grab your sword this turn, would be my guess.
Exactly. And it would be good. But then of course, Powers just likely follows that up with a Be Prepared of his own. But it looks like only 1 grab your sword at the moment. Starting with
No.
ink is definitely interesting.
All right, we're gonna go looking for the song. We can cast one with ink and we can sing one with Stitch. So if we find it, we might be in business, but we don't. We
Nothing.
have basically one more draw off of a Simba, I think, and then that still leaves us enough to double grab your sword.
Well, so there's 10 ink and this Stitch Rockstar, so we could go grab your sword plus a whole new world, just to try to stay alive, essentially. Or, yeah, and it really has to be that because you can take care of the queen, but you can't do anything about the Goofy. Here we go, whole new world.
Okay.
It can't do anything about the evasive Goofy, and then that plus the Rafiki or plus the queen would end the game.
Well, we found it. There's grab your sword. That's gonna clean it
Wow.
up. So now we're gonna go question for 2, 4, 5, 6. Can also probably challenge the queen with one of them, so we can only quest for 5. But I think that's fine.
But even after that huge turn, this is still like one of the best positions we've seen Powers in today, and he has won from all the worst ones.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely starts with be prepared if he's got it. You know, he did just get wheeled, and there's a chance you don't find it off of the fresh 7.
That's
Looks
true.
like Powers doesn't have that many cards left in deck either, but we do know he is running a broom strategy, so it's going to be difficult to get decked. We're going to ink a Tibbs. So anyway, I started blasting. Does he not have it? Oh no. Might not have the be prepared. Dude,
It
what
would
if
be
Bivens wins this game? This would be the most epic
yeah,
comeback of all time.
right. Winning this game with the whole new worlds would be very impressive.
He might pull it off too because it looks like Powers has a Maui, which can eat the Stitch Rockstar, and it looks like he has an Aladdin, but that Beast Hardhead had destroyed the Rabbit's Pocket Watch earlier, so.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't signal be prepared. But if Powers can get a large character into play that can threaten a win in 1 or 2 turns, that could still be enough because Amber Steel is not great at dealing with readied characters. The game getting tighter than it might have seemed a few turns earlier.
Turns
Powers
out
is
drawing
not
7
getting there.
cards can change stuff.
Yeah, I'll say it. I underestimated Whole New Worlds.
I mean, I did too. Casting them when you're have no board or whatever is pretty gross. I think it's just the wheel turns Zach Powers' hand from great to mid,
Right.
right? No be prepared in that spot. All right, back Bivens' way. We have a pile of ink, more ink than we could ever shake a stick at. Not many cards left in deck for either player.
Looks like 13 up to 14 ink for Bivens. And Powers not threatening very much lore this turn, but even if just that Maleficent gets a quest, then every 2 lore character from Powers for the rest of the game is a threat.
All right, Bivens. What you got? Grip full of mid.
Full of mid. There's a Tink Giant Fairy in here, which doesn't really do it on this board.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't really do much of anything. I think you can cast 2 Tinkerbell Giant Fairies if you have them, and those that could be a pretty decent start. But we're going to start with a shifted Stitch Rockstar. Now that can quest for 3, it can sing a song, or it can challenge.
I think if there's another Whole New World in the deck, I don't know if one got discarded earlier. Uh, the play might just be to dig towards that with Rockstar, but you do reach a point where
not a lot we can do about it. But the tournament's almost over. We're in the finals. We have Rockstar chunks in on the Rafiki, and then we have Rapunzel come down, refresh it, and draw a bunch. And now both players here, very small decks left in play, and we'll see who's able to take it down. Power's dangerously close to winning with 17 lore.
the benefit of a whole new world is when a player gets decked, it goes quite a bit more quickly.
And both players' decks drawing a bunch of cards naturally on top of all that. I think we're both pretty close to just running out of physical cards.
For sure.
All right, looks like we deployed another aerial singer. I see 5 or 6 cards left for Bivens, and I assume the same about for Zach Powers, maybe a few more.
And that aerial did not find another whole new world. And the grab your sword. Oh, maybe the aerial probably found the grab your sword that was just played.
I see. Yeah. And now Bivens is like, do I want to play another character? It's like, well, he didn't play a sweeper last turn, so what are the odds he has at this turn?
Right. And there are actually a lot of things to think about here. Do you play one or both characters? Do you draw a card off one or both of them with Rockstar? Depends on exactly how few cards are in deck.
Well, Bivens ain't got no brooms in his deck, so I think you're just left with, the 6 cards left, and I don't think you should accelerate your decking any sooner.
Right.
Are we going to go back Powers' way? Bivens' last 2 inks should be exerted, but it's not a huge deal because we're just playing on each other's turns. Or we're not playing on each other's turns.
Right.
Powers here would love to draw a sweeper effect. Let's see if you can find it.
Whether or not the ink is exerted typically only tends to matter for tracking and memory purposes. And
All right, finally we have Maleficent Monster Dragon comes down and chews up the extra Stitch Rockstar. Bivens in the driver's seat. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lore on the table. And Power doesn't have to play anything. Powers with the Monster Dragon not threatening lethal next turn. So if I'm Bivens, I think I just quest for a bunch and pass the turn and hope Powers can't do anything about it.
Right. Yeah. Nothing you add to the board is really going to make a difference here. It's going to be all or nothing from Power's side. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
The only punish would be like another pocket watch, but like can't really play around it. I think you just got to quest and try to win the game.
Right.
Counting up the be prepared. Have you been counting?
No, I missed it.
Yeah, I don't know either. Also, not 100% if there are 4 be prepared in the deck. There usually are. I think I saw 3 in the grave.
I agree. 1, 2.
Well, maybe
2 or
just
3.
2. All right, Bivens. Oh, wow. Yeah, someone just said if he had Rockstar left in his deck, he can be our guest on the Rockstar and then get 2 additional lore off of his Stitch in play. So that was a way to physically win the game this turn if he had a Stitch Rockstar left. I'm not sure that he does. He's played a bunch this game already. This has been the longest game in history outside of every other Ruby Amethyst Mirror.
Right, and you don't have to take a card off Be Your Guest if you don't want to. I'm curious, actually. Let me check.
Maybe he sees the line a little too late.
I think, yeah, a little too hasty there because Be Our Guest also lets you put the cards on the bottom in any order. Could really matter this game. You never want to be thinking it over after you've already quested.
All right, we're gonna play Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. Deal 1 damage to the Maleficent.
Maybe just valuing having a readied character that threatens to win the game. Continuing to deploy, actually. 4 cards left. Yeah,
No
none of
Stitch
those are
Rockstar. Okay. All right, so you get to stack them however you want, though.
as if they're going to matter. They
You
were
never
all
know.
effective. They were all effectively the same card.
Well, 1 cost, do nothing creatures.
Right. That,
Okay. Well, Bivens might know something we don't. Just says I'm gonna play them all. You
yeah.
know.
I'm certainly interested in holding the Cinderella. Can win the game all on its own. That was a be prepared. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if it was. It was a red card. That's a be
That was a be
prepared.
prepared.
That's the be prepared. That's number 4. Bivens picking up all those characters and powers here might be able to steal victory from the jaws of defeat.
From the jaws of victory. From the jaws of
He'll,
defeat, from the jaws of victory.
yeah, you get it.
Yeah. This is a much wilder game than we anticipated. But Powers did have to draw 2 cards on that turn to get to the be prepared. It's possible he doesn't have enough cards left. And if he wasn't afraid of decking, it's also possible he didn't leave himself with any
Oh,
broom.
does he have a broom? If he had a broom here, he can go Mickey Broom and threaten lethal. Oh, the Gaston doesn't quest. Oh man,
Wow.
Bivens can win this game still.
I'm going to call it. I think the last card in Powers' deck is...
All right. It better be good because he's dead otherwise, right? Better be
just
a
drop them
broom.
all on the table.
Be our guests. Put our magic to the test. Which one you want?
Definitely
right.
at the point where getting more characters onto the battlefield could matter. You need to have exactly 2 more than Powers has answered. We're just gonna double check the discard. Maybe Powers could have used that last turn to sort his graveyard. Ariel, Tinkerbell. You have to play the characters, right?
I mean, if you played him last turn and you don't play him this turn,
Right.
I'm gonna guess that he's getting ratatouille'd.
All right, there's the characters. Zach needs to win the game or kill 3.
Alrighty, what you got? He also needs to have broom so he doesn't deck himself because he can't quest and win the game this turn. And he doesn't have any packs to then. He inked all the
We're going to game
brooms.
3!
And somehow Zach Bivens able to win the marathon game number 2. What a game that was. And we're going to game number 3. Zach Powers with his Ruby Amethyst deck going to be on the play. All right, Phil, for a second. I got to go to the bathroom.
All right. One thing we didn't notice in that game until it was too late, but we also didn't notice the whole new worlds is Powers, I think, inked every single broom or just let them die and didn't save the last one. The last broom is usually crucial in the Ruby Amethyst mirror because you know almost for sure that those are going to get into that broom stage. But Powers really didn't play around the whole new worlds and ended up in a situation where he had no brooms left. They were all in either the discard or the inkwell, and that ruined him against those whole new. There was there was a period of time when people were talking a lot about playing whole new world as kind of a mill deck to try to do what Bevins just did on purpose, and then people started talking about playing more cards in their deck to try to counter the strategy. I would guess that Powers is not playing any more, and neither is Bevins. But yeah, that just opens the door for whole new worlds to do exactly what they just did. And we are getting ready to look at our openers for Game 3 Apex Invitational Qualifier Finals.
All right, this is the deciding game. The winner of this game will be invited to the TCG Player Invitational hosted by Apex Gaming that we're going to be running at the Apex Gaming home store in Caldwell, Ohio next week.
And you have to wonder if Bivens is thinking here about last game. He mulliganed 5 cards and then, I want to say punished, but very nearly got punished by not having enough ink. But somehow incredibly was able to pull that one out. And only mulligans 3 this time. And only 1 or 2 from powers.
All right, well, players here are just about ready with their openers. Powers will be on the play. Let's see if he has Archimedes or what. When you play Ruby Amethyst, how many goons do you play, and which one do you play?
I just don't have any attachment to play like 3 Archimedes. I'm a fan of the owl.
All right.
But our
Hippo
friend
in chat says owl. Owl.
Yeah. Our friend Chris McCurry, big fan of Sergeant Tibbs.
He's a kitty.
He is.
All right,
kitty.
what's Sergeant Tibbs from? Aristocats?
I would honestly guess 101 Dalmatians.
That's a
but
good
I'm not
guess.
sure. It just looks a little more like that, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear risk.
Yeah. All right, chat. Where's Sergeant Tibbs from? We need your help. Here's a turn 1 a Stitch New Dog from Zach Bivens on the draw. And we'll see if Powers has a turn 2 play to counter it. Could play something like Broom just to challenge it. Gonna ink a Gaston. And then play another Gaston. That makes sense.
Makes sense.
Archimedes is Merlin's shoulder hour. I knew that. I don't care about that. I need to know where Sergeant Tibbs is from. Multiple people say 101 Dalmatians, so I'll believe them.
Wow, chat is divided though.
All right, Bivens here. Got a 2-drop. Gonna go ahead and play the Simba and Quest for 1. This does leave him open to Rafiki, but it always does. We're always open to Rafiki. It's just the nature of the beast. Doesn't look like Powers has it, or else he would have probably slammed it pretty quick.
But this is an interesting decision point if you're Bivens, though, is do you value the Stitch or the Simba more? Because I'm sure there are, game states and decks where the play would be to quest with the Stitch and then just play the Simba readied because you'd rather trade off the Stitch. But in a Rockstar deck, maybe Bivens is valuing keeping play even more than having a bodyguard.
Yeah, I think that's certainly fair. All right, ink number 3 for Powers and a Broom. We're going to shuffle the Gaston back in. He got decked last game. He's like every single one. Everyone's going back.
Every time. And I wonder whether he'll be conscious enough that he, saves a Broom the entire game. Because, he got punished for that last game. Every Broom was either in discard or...
All right, Bivens here can play Ariel. He's deciding on what to play as ink. Every single decision is a journey.
Wow. Ink's a rock star in favor of holding the second Ariel.
You know what? I like it. Stitch Rockstar sucks. It's bad. Never play it. Just kidding. It's like my favorite card.
Oh, I know. Confused for a second there.
Finds no song and decides not to quest. Doesn't want to trade it with the Broom. Might want to save it for another Stitch Rockstar that he has in hand, it looks like.
True.
All right, 4. We got... What is this? A Mickey.
Hugely rewarded for not questing with that Stitch. That would have been pretty good if Powers was able to land the Mickey and trade off the... And now we do the opposite play, ink the Ariel to play the Rockstar.
Yeah, but now we can sing... we can actually sing A Whole New World and grab your sword. I kind of like doing that because it clears the Broom. But maybe that's bad. Maybe we just wait till next turn.
That's so the benefit there is you empty almost your whole hand and get rid of 3 or 4 cards from powers. Uh your Ariel is still threatened by this Mickey, but your Rockstar isn't. And it looks like we're just questing with the Rockstar instead and holding on to the new world.
I think questing is a horrible mistake because of Maui.
Right.
Well, if we've seen anything, though, Zach Bivens is consistent. He is questing. If you give him a moment to quest, he is questing. His
It's true.
characters are throwaway. He does not care. We're going to clean up the board and go back Bivens' way. Battlefield's empty. It's Beast hard-headed, but nothing to target with it.
He's also no stranger to just playing out beasts.
Looks like that's what we're going to do.
And the beast will get to sing next turn for almost the maximum if Bivens goes for that option.
All right.
We are definitely in for the long haul with not much pressure. You definitely love to see that if you're Bivens New World.
Well, you definitely love to see that if your powers for your opponent to ink a beast and then play a beast, and then you play your magic mirror.
That's true, but you know, we won last game and Powers had 2 mirrors in play. Maybe the card's just not that good. You ever think of that? Huh?
You know what? I did think of that. We're gonna
And
ink
you
a
decided
Simba.
it wasn't right.
Gonna ink a Simba. This signifies to me that we're playing Whole New World. I think it's the right play. Only 2 cards from
Absolutely.
powers, but you gotta put some pressure down, and this Beast Hard Headed's not it. The Magic Mirror is gonna outpace you, but you can water it down a bit by giving you both a big refresh. And if you're first to market and they don't have Be Prepared, I think that you're in great shape.
Absolutely. We'll see how the hand is looking here. Both players. At least one Be Prepared in Zach Power's hand. Couple Rapunzels for Bivens. And a Lilo.
I think we got a Rapunzel and a Simba Bodyguard. Seems probably like the play. Bodyguard plus a couple of cheap characters might be all right as well. We have already played in Ink. We did Ink a Simba before playing Whole New World.
Right.
All right, here is the girl. Kiss the girl. That's the wrong movie. You get it though.
It is, yeah. Uh, kind of interesting that we played this Rapunzel as opposed to the Cinderella that's also in hand, which is, I think that would have been a better play here. It's a better body than the Rapunzel, quest for the same amount, but I might have also misread Bivens' hand. And we have hit the 7 ink threshold for Zach Powers.
That's the money one. That's where it all starts coming crashing down.
Right. And Bivens' rebuild, uh, whenever a Be Prepared does come down, his head looked a little, I don't know, a little mid. Without a whole lot of pressure to follow up, even after just 2 removal spells here.
Well, that's what next turn's for. And that's what Magic Mirror's for, but Bivens only at 4 lore, powers at 0, has Magic Mirror and some defensive cards in hand. We'll see if he's able to check Bivens' big turn here.
Getting in with the questing. That's what Lilo does. Yep, there's Cinderella. And there is another whole new world in Bivens' hand. If he's able to chain these whole new worlds, we might see a repeat of last game. The place where that can fall short sometimes is if you draw multiple off the same whole new worlds, because only one of those is going to get played this game. But if you draw them in the right order, they can be devastating.
All right, we
Simba,
got a Simba. And
Good
now we're
answer.
gonna go back
Good cast
Powers'
now.
way. Yep. Like we drew Heroic Outlaw. An Inca Queen.
The dreaded Rafiki. And we're gonna need some big plays from Bivens, but I think we have one in Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. Looks real good on this board. There we go.
Okay, chew him up. This is where Bivens wants to be, and Powers needs some help. We're going to be able to quest as well for 2 up to 8. And we have a whole new world in hand, so unless Powers is able to empty his hand this turn, Bivens is likely going to cast that big refresh next turn and refuel his hand.
Yeah, this is going to be an actively good hole. Though there is the dreaded Be Prepared. And a Broom.
And Broom's going to put something back. Summon old BLT. I think Be Prepared would be a better choice, but perhaps just wants to be threat dense for the later turns. Maybe thinks Bivens is out of gas. We know that's not the case. He's about to draw
Psych.
7 more.
And wonder how many turns until we see Zach use a broom to put a broom back in. Especially if the second Whole New World of the game does get cast. Just a Stitch Rockstar and a pass. Really trying to eke out as much value as possible casting.
I mean, it's always scary to give your opponent 7 cards, right? So if you have something relevant to play, might as well do that instead of playing to draw 7, especially if you can't sing it, especially if you're behind on board.
Right. But you see, kind of getting that value out kind of backfires here. Maleficent is, the best answer in the game to a single threat turn. Counting up our ink. And
Every server with nothing going on.
Really committing to this line of, playing out every single card. And if that induces Powers to spend more ink drawing cards with Mirror, all the better.
All right, here's Maleficent. Gonna draw a card. We got Dragonfire gonna blow him out. All right, Bivens, you're out of time. It's time to wheel it and pray. It worked last game. We were about in the same spot as last game as well.
Or you could just play this Tinkerbell.
Think about killing nothing. Seems loose. Playing in as ink. All right, draw 7. Here we go. We're going to discard at least one Be Prepared as Zach Powers.
Yeah, you love to see that, especially after the Broom a few turns to go did not shuffle Be Prepared. That's that many fewer that you have to worry about.
Yeah, my man Frank Carson in chat is going to be playing in our invitational next week as well. I get to see Frank in a few days. He's going to be flying into Roanoke, Virginia, and riding up to the tournament with me. Should be nice. I haven't seen Frank in quite some time. One of my good friends from back in the day. I was a big fan of Frank's well before I was friends with Frank.
Nice. All right, here's a value target for a Beast Hardheaded, taking out the Magic Mirror.
Everyone says Beast Hardheaded so good against Ruby Amethyst, and all I can think of is, really? Her?
Yeah. Look, it says the words on it. You gotta trust the words. Else,
All right. Freeze your thing. Do some questing. Crunch on in.
So this is kind of a play pattern that we've seen time and time again from Powers. Not specifically these cards, but any opportunity to just trade cards off for his opponents as opposed to trying to push lore, Powers takes that opportunity. And it's, it's served him well so far.
Yeah, I mean, just hyper defensive play, always ahead on raw resources because of the nature of the deck, and generally
Right.
has the right answers. And even if it takes 2 cards to kill one of your opponents, if you've drawn 15 more cards than your opponent, it's like spraying and praying or whatever, right? It just doesn't matter. You're just so far ahead.
Right.
Close all the doors. Remove the outs. Last game, I think, was stolen simply because multiple draw sevens yielded no be prepareds in a weird spot. But here, it looks like Powers has everything rolled up. Bivens' draw seven was quite weak compared to the last time around.
Right. Definitely, not drawing the be prepared was a factor, but also you're talking about removing your opponent's outs. Bivens had an out that Powers wasn't accounting for. And that's what got him over the finish line last game. But that'll certainly at least be in the back of Powers' game. As this aerial did the aerial hit anything?
I didn't see it. Too busy hamming it up with chat. That's my apologies. All right, so we're gonna play a couple characters here: an Ariel and a Cinderella, and these are not nearly as threatening to Zach Powers as something like Stitch Rockstar into a bunch of one drops. That is how Bivens was able to steal game number 2. But Zach Powers seems to be firmly in the lead here in game number 3. Whenever a turn starts with a cast, be our guest for ink, you know you're in bad shape. Hey, people says last game was earned. Yeah, you're right. It was earned. That was a well-earned game. Bivens fought tooth and nail for about 40 straight minutes to win.
That's true. Even, his body language looked a little bit defeated, but he did make the right moves to put the game in a position where he could take it. All right, we are questing with this Maleficent. And the Elsa can also quest. The heavy hitters are really coming out for Powers now. And I'm wondering whether he's starting to think about ending the game. Even with this be prepared in hand.
All right, here's a Mickey. Are we going to quest? Why would we not quest with... I don't understand. Why would Elsa not quest?
That is a good question.
Okay, Bivens, let's see what you can do. A lot of ink now. Something like Stitch Rockstar as a lead would be pretty strong. Any questing you do, any singing you do, leaves you vulnerable to Aladdin, so you have to be wary of that.
Exactly. This is a squeeze.
Ooh, chat's pointing out that a Rapunzel play would be quite devastating if the Elsa was able to get challenged. So good call on that. The Maleficent having such strong or such high strength means that challenging it will rarely leave your character alive.
That's true. So one of the things we've noticed, especially in the early game with Bivens, is a tendency to prioritize lore even when character's vulnerable.
Yes.
That active prioritizing lore is kind of the mentality that leads players to not play into an Aladdin. But I wonder if there's some times where it might be the right play to, let Aladdin get some attacks in, your lore gets reduced, theirs goes up, but that's maybe not what's important, and the board position is. I wonder if Bivens might be taking that into account here as he exposes this aerial.
Yeah, I pretty regularly open myself up to getting challenged in order to punish with things either I have in hand or already have in play. The Heroic Outlaw is a particularly devastating hit sometimes, but if you never start the action, like if you never do anything that forces your opponent to attack, then they're just gonna outquest you or out-resource you, right? But Powers is doing a great job of just making sure the Bivens has very few ways to keep the engine running. But Bivens' deck is just so flush with engines that draw a bunch of cards. It's I think at some point you just have to start trying to win the game.
Absolutely.
Three
But
ink is Bivens left after drawing two with the Carefree Surfer. Decides to go ahead and quest with the other characters. And this is going to leave the door open for Powers to do some serious damage.
right, and we saw that play on the previous turn, not questing with the that points to Powers being worried about Rapunzel. This Carefree Surfer is great for that. It has enough willpower that anything Powers quests with is going to leave that opportunity for Rapunzel. So it could restrict Powers' options if he's still concerned about that.
All right, 3/1 drops.
Load him up.
All in. Here you go. This would be a nice turn for Powers to go quest, Wrath. It's like I do see a Be Prepared hanging out in there as well. See how Powers wants to navigate this. Okay, deciding not to Wrath this turn, just going to go jamming in on these characters. Knocking them down the old-fashioned way and gaining some lore in the process.
And what Powers is really saying at this point is, you drew me that hand off the whole new world, and what it looks like is all the characters I have are better than all the characters. So instead of Be Prepared, I'm just gonna line my stuff up and knock your stuff down and try to get over the finish line with my beefier stuff.
All right, I'm gonna go shake the dust off the camera real quick. I'm gonna blow into the cartridge. Give me just a second. We'll get it all nice and fit in just a sec. This is game 3 of the finals. We're playing. I mean, there is an eclipse tonight, right? Maybe that's what's messing it up.
We're back. And that is a lot of lore for Zach Powers.
Okay, Gaston is an ink. We have quested a bunch. We have condensed the board. Okay, not going to play the Gaston as ink. We're just going to play the Queen. Bivens, you got lethal staring you in the face. Let's see if we can do some tricky grab your sword stuff, some singing, some casting, some wheeling. What you got? Everything's on the line. Qualification, 500 bones, an interview with yours truly.
I saw Grab Your Sword peeking out there. This is actually a great spot for that. It doesn't kill anything except the Rafiki on its own, but it enables almost all of your smaller characters to trade up into Power's larger characters. There we go, right off the bat.
All right, 2 to everything.
Get the dice out. And now see what we can do. The Captain Hook Forceful Duelist, pretty important here, having 3 strength to be able to just trade for either of the largest characters.
Yeah, we're gonna have a waterfall here in just a sec where most things are gonna get traded off, but the fact of the matter is the Bivens needs to make sure that there is 3 or fewer lore on the table by the end of this turn.
Right.
It looks like we're gonna be able to do it. We can kill this Aladdin as well. The question is, do you want to keep your 1/1 that quest for 2 around? The answer is yes. Quest for 2 up to 11, and now we still have some stuff to play. Here is Cinderella and a Prince Eric using every bit of ink here. Back Powers' way. What a turn.
It's hard to really be too unhappy about this if you're Powers, because you have a Be Prepared in hand. And your opponent just
No,
cleaned
quest.
cleaned himself out.
Yeah, you know there's a draw 7 waiting around on top. Maybe a Stitch Rockstar, you know.
Wow. This is nearly impossible for Bivens to answer. This
Yeah.
Elsa wins the game all by itself.
Okay, Bivens, what you got? Got to beat this Elsa when your opponent's at 17. One draw, one card for all the marbles.
One shot,
Boom.
one opportunity. Game
Zach
over.
Powers. Zach Powers is your champion here, taking down our second and final invitational qualifier for the TCG Player Lorcana Invitational next weekend. That $5,000 invite-only tournament is now one person deeper with Zach Powers in that Ruby Amethyst control deck. Well done, well played.
Right.
All weekend I felt like of all the competitors in the event, he was one of the few that I felt had a great capacity for the archetype that he was playing. It was very clear that he's play tested a bunch. He understands the matchups. He understands how to mulligan in different spots, sequencing, prioritization. And while there's like a million decisions every turn, and of course there's going to be micro decisions that get punished, right? I feel like on average his clip rate of making the correct decision was significantly higher than most players.
Exactly. I mentioned this during that third game there, but I was very impressed with Zach Powers' ability to not be too conservative, not to be too greedy with all of his answers, and just run them out every time he felt like it was a decent exchange. Be prepared against 2 or 3 characters, or Dragon Fires against Lilos, things like that. And I think the one game that we saw him, take his foot off the gas a little bit and leave his opponent with the character, it punished him. And before and after that was very tight, deployed answers as soon as he was able to. Very impressive.
All right, in just a moment, we're going to have Zachary Powers on camera, and we're going to ask him about his Ruby Amethyst control deck and ask him about his tournament. We'll have that up for you in just a moment. Right. Zach, congratulations. You have won an invitation to our TCG Player Lorcana Invitational next weekend. How do you feel?
Ecstatic. That's probably the best way to put it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping I wanted to make the last one, the first event that they had. However, I got a little unlucky with work, so had to earn money.
Real life be like that.
Yeah. But
all right, so give us an insight into your preparation for this event. And the last 2 months have been pretty hot and heavy in terms of the introduction of Lorcana, tough struggles with physically getting cards and stuff. Tell us about your journey in Lorcana so far.
So I got a little lucky. The store that I naturally play at, it's called the Realm Games. We didn't have a big pouring out for Lorcana. For whatever reason, they had some pushback. So there was more product available there than anticipated. That helped me actually basically accumulate all the decks available in the format, except for a couple Rapunzels and Carefree Surfers. So
cool. All right, so for this Ruby Amethyst deck, has this been your primary deck the whole time?
Yes. Outside of helping my partner test, I would not play any other deck. Just myself. I feel like it's got every answer for every matchup.
All right, tell me what was going through your mind as you were losing game number 2.
Yeah, I actually have a screenshot from our Discord. I think at 7:09, Todd sends a message, make sure to get Powers from an interview. And then I looked at that message at 7:50 in game 3.
I'll be 100% honest. When I lost the 4th copy of Broom, I went, oh, that's right, I inked 2. That last card's not going to be a Broom. So I'm trying to out-tempo him. And yeah, it just didn't end up working out.
Nice. Well, congratulations to you. Is there any one in particular who's invited to the Invitational that you're looking forward to playing against? Anybody from, do you play Magic the Gathering? Is that where you're from?
Yes, I do play a lot. Actually, I'm really looking forward the most to playing Stoyer, to be honest.
The former world champion Nathan Stoyer is going to be in our event. Yeah. Awesome.
He's definitely been the guy I've been looking to play with, whether it's Magic or any other card game. So.
All right. Well, congrats again to Zachary Powers. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. We're going to be in Caldwell. I'm going to shake your hand and maybe get you a beer.
Hey, perfect. I'll take it.
All right. Well,
Alright.
that's going to do it for today's tournament and stream. We will be having a last chance qualifier for the Invitational on Friday of next week. Make sure to head out to Caldwell, Ohio at the Apex Gaming home store, and you can try to punch your ticket. We got 2 slots left to give away as invites to our $5,000 Invitational. And that's sponsored by TCG Player. We're also going to have sponsors Ultimate Guard as well as Cards and Castles 2. So big shout out to our sponsors for that event. We thank you so much for helping us put it on. Matt, it was great to have you for today's event, man. How was your day?
Absolutely, it was a blast. We only had to experience one Ruby Amethyst mirror, and we got through it. We'll be better prepared for the next ones, but we had some fun matchups. That was an incredible finals. I was very excited to watch that.
Agreed. All right, well, that's going to do it. Thank you so much to Apex Gaming for hosting the event as well as hosting the Invitational next weekend. Thanks to all the players that came out as well as staff for making sure we had a clean, well-run event. And that's going to do it for me. Thanks so much for Matt for being my co-host today. For Apex Gaming, I'm Tandy. That's Matt. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for the Invitational.